I always tell students, don't copy paste from Wikipedia because, you know, everyone reads Wikipedia, including your professor.
So is Wikipedia the best thing that happened to internet?
Definitely. Wikipedia is the only really great website there is, that's for sure. I started Bombas, which was a search engine and web directory, probably about 1997, 1998. I'm sure you can look it up in Wikipedia. It was more like Yahoo used to have a directory, an index. So it was a hand-created index of the internet, but anyone could come and join us in starting to build that index. But it was that idea that people can participate rather than just consume. And then suddenly someone created 10 great links about Pamela Anderson, which suddenly, a tiny website, we suddenly were getting 1,000 hits a day. And so very quickly, it turns out that what people wanted to build index of links to was female movie stars and porn stars and things like that. And so that was a huge part of our traffic. It was never something that we intended, but you know, it was there. Once a story like that starts, it's too fun to not repeat. That was during the time when I had the idea for a free encyclopedia and started the first project, Newpedia, which is the predecessor to Wikipedia. We did a very academic, very top-down model. It was a 7-stage review process to get anything published. And it ultimately failed because it wasn't very fun. And that's when we turned to the easier model, the more open model of Wiki. The term wiki comes from a Hawaiian term, wiki, which means quick. So the idea of wiki is quick collaboration. A wiki is a website that anyone can edit, and it was first created by Ward Cunningham, a very well-known programmer, probably about 1996 or 1995. Nobody was using it to make an encyclopedia. You know, within 2 weeks, we had as much work done as we had in almost 2 years' time. And it suddenly became very easy for people to participate. I mean, you could go and you might be the first person to write, Paris is the capital of France, which isn't a very good encyclopedia article. It's only one sentence and it doesn't have any references, but it's a start and anyone could start something. And so it became kind of fun to go around and just add little facts and things like that. But of course, in the first early days, I remember sort of waking up in the middle of the night to check the website because I was afraid somebody would come in and just trash everything. You had no idea. In those days, the traffic to Wikipedia would double about every 3 or 4 months. I remember a period of time when we kept absolutely no access logs whatsoever. The reason was I literally didn't have any disk space to store them. The traffic was so high that if you tried to store the access logs, it would eat up the hard drives very quickly. We're just not going to have access logs. We have no idea what's going on, but we can't right now. It made sense to me that it could be in the nonprofit structure just because it isn't like Facebook, it isn't like Twitter, it isn't like Google. It's more like a library or a museum. Lots of students come to me and say, I wouldn't have finished my degree if it didn't have Wikipedia and that sort of thing. But now, because people see the quality is pretty good, it isn't perfect. Now it's really about, let's teach people how to use Wikipedia. If you come to Wikipedia as a starting point for any research project, that's pretty good because we are going to lead you in the right direction and then you know how to dig deeper. If you end your research with Wikipedia, that's pretty bad unless you're 13 years old. And I always tell students, don't copy paste from Wikipedia because everyone reads Wikipedia, including your professor, so they will notice it. The percentage of people who are editing Wikipedia is really tiny compared to the number of people who are reading Wikipedia. We could always get more people editing if we just made the edit button bigger. What we really care about is, of those who do care to edit, are they doing good work? In the community, there are probably 70 to 100,000 regular contributors. But then there's probably 3,000 to 5,000. That's the real core. That's the real community. The ones who are taking all the decisions, the ones who are looking after everything. I don't take a salary. I always make that very clear. Wikipedia is my charity work, so I don't take a salary. I don't have an expense account because I want people to know when I'm asking you to give money to Wikipedia, I'm not saying give money to me. I make my money in other ways. So anyway, yes, please donate.